Congratulations! You didn't suck. Hi. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you've never been here before. Today we are going to be ranking my top 5 favorite, best, spectacular, amazing movies that I watched for the channel this year. So I watched a total of 35 movies, and these were the top 5 best ones that I watched with you guys. So if you want to see my full-length reaction to any of these movies, link for my Patreon will be in the description below. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with number 5. This is actually the first movie that I watched for 2024, and that is Jennifer's Body from 2009. Now, I gave this a 10 out of 10. All of these movies got a 10 out of 10. This one is ranked not the first one because all the other ones that I have are just like spectacular. Like, they are perfect movies to me. Jennifer's Body, I enjoyed my time with so much, and the music is so good. Like, I cannot get that music out of my head. Such a shame that it's not on Spotify, but whatever. Yeah, and it's a little bit lower because I think like the logistics in the movie don't really make sense, but it can be overlooked because of how fun that movie was. And I just like how different of a role it was for Megan Fox. I thought it was just so funny. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with this one. It just had great acting. Chris Pratt was in it, Adam Brody. That movie is a true testament of time. It will live on against the test of time. You know, it really will. Okay, number 4 is Joker from 2019. This one is a 10 out of 10. This one was kind of an unexpected gem. I mean, I knew the movie was good, all right? Everyone raved about it when it first came out. It was all I could hear for like the next 3 years, it felt like, since that movie came out. And I, of course, watched this in preparation for Joker 2, Folie 2, and I was really excited to see that one because this first Joker from 2019 was so good. I didn't know what to expect, honestly. Joaquin Phoenix is honestly just, he's one of the best actors ever, honestly, and I think most people will agree with me. He was a great Joker. Kind of solidified, okay, I am scared because I think I actually am like Joker brained, because when I watched The Dark Knight, I was like, okay, I'm picking up what Joker's putting down. And then I watched this movie and kind of just seeing how true all this stuff was, I was like, oh no, I'm really Joker brained, I think, because I'm agreeing with everything this man is saying. So that was scary. This movie just did everything right. I cared about him so much. It shocked me. There was plot twists, and ooh, the coloring. I loved how he looks too. Like, I love how this Joker looks too, with like the bright red and the mustard and the green. This one, yeah, okay, this one did it. Like, this one kind of solidified me as a Batman Joker fan. Now, unfortunately, I did not go see Joker 2 Folie 2 because I heard so many negative things about it, and people were kind of describing it as like a courtroom drama, but like also a musical somehow. It just sounded so odd to me. I didn't know it was a musical until like right before I was filming the Joker video. So that was weird. Maybe I'll see if it comes on streaming, but I'm not spending my money on that. I'm very frugal when it comes to seeing bad movies. I'm like, hey, if I hear one person that I like say that the movie's bad, I'm not gonna spend my money on it, and that's just final. All right, and speaking of Joker, at number 3, we have The Dark Knight from 2008. Now, this one is the epitome of clownery, because I didn't realize, or I don't know, think, or I don't know what happened. Like, my brain like malfunctioned, I guess. I watched this first before watching Batman Begins. So yeah, kind of embarrassing, because I was watching the movie and I was like, where is the context of Batman's backstory? It's all on Batman Begins. Okay, so don't worry, I'm making up for it. If you stay tuned, I make up for it. Just a little hint right there. But even without the context of watching Batman Begins, this movie was a perfect movie to me. Like I said about, you know, this 2019 Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, this 2008 one, both are great Jokers, all right? I'm not gonna pit two baddies against each other. They're both amazing Jokers, but this Heath Ledger portrayal of Joker is so fucking good and iconic and scary that it honestly, it altered my brain chemistry. It really did, because this was my first introduction. You hear about Batman, you hear about Joker and like memes about like Joker brain and whatever, and then you watch it, it's scary for me to like actually agree with some of the stuff he's saying. Like, Gotham be off the rails, all right? Gotham is just, she's on one, and Joker is pointing out the obvious, and I'm like, okay, but he's not wrong though. So I mean, maybe not the way he goes about it, you know, like blowing up hospitals and stuff, but he just likes to play games, which is toxic, the way he likes to play those games with people's lives, but his philosophy isn't completely wrong. Yeah, that was scary for me to realize. Hopefully I'm not alone in thinking that. I was not bored watching it. I cried. I felt like every emotion watching that movie. So 10 out of 10, it altered something in my brain, honestly. All right, at number 2, we have Rocky 2 from 1979. Now, I loved the first Rocky. Don't get me wrong, I did. And I gave the first Rocky, when I watched it, a 9 out of 10, I think, on the channel. But everything that I was kind of wanting from the first Rocky, Rocky 2 gave me. Gave me those iconic scenes of the training montage and him really coming to his own. The Adrian story, like, that made me freaking cry as well. Oh my gosh, he finally wins too. I get that as the story goes along, they're fighting, whatever. But in the first Rocky, you know, spoiler, he doesn't win. In this one, he finally wins, and I was like, hell yeah. It scratched an itch that I've been wanting to be scratched. You know what I mean? It was exactly what I was wanting from the first Rocky. This one gave it to me. That makes me excited to see the third one. I don't know how many exactly Rocky movies there are. I want to say maybe 5, because I don't know, 5 rounds. Is it gonna be one or the other? Like, okay, he wins this one, then Creed wins the other one, then this one, whatever. I love the character development. I just love Rocky and Adrian's relationship. It's so wholesome in so many ways. He's my humble king, and what can I say? Everything I wanted, this movie delivered. Okay, before we get into my number 1, I want to have some honorable mentions. One of the first honorable mentions is Black Swan from 2010. Now, I am starting to kind of realize that I love Darren Aronofsky. I watched Mother, I think about 2 years ago at this point, or maybe like a year ago. I watched it for Mother's Day. That movie was a perfect movie in my head. A lot of people don't like it, or it's too much, or it's very graphic. I mean, Jennifer Lawrence literally said like that movie traumatized the freaking heck out of her. I get it. But I think they just did everything right. What they wanted to come across and tell, I got it instantly. I got all the analogies, and it just it changed me as a person. It really did. And this one, Black Swan, was also one that I was heavily anticipating, because it's also very popular and it's kind of like memed on as well. And I was kind of avoiding watching it because a lot of it has to do with like anxiety. I mean, she is a ballerina, and I don't know, I won't elaborate, but like the whole anxiety of being a ballerina and what that does to a person, it was a little too close to home. I didn't really know if I wanted to watch it or not. So eventually I was just like, okay, you know what? I'm just too curious. I have to watch it. Darren Aronofsky does surrealism so well, because you really don't know what's real and what's not real. And then the way that it just blends the two, reality and what's in her head, the way it like blended it together was seamless to me. Very seamless. I loved it. It was just so anxiety inducing, which is what he's really good at. Darren's very good at making us all anxious. Yeah, this one was incredible, and I loved how it ended as well. It was perfection. When I first watched this, I gave this a 9 out of 10, but afterwards I, crossed it off on my list and I gave it a 10 out of 10. Okay, next is a rewatch, so I don't really count it, but I'm just adding it on here because when I watched it, I did give it this high of a score, and I'm sticking with my word, and that is National Treasure from 2004. Now, this is a rewatch. I have seen it, and even when I watched it for the channel, it was, a rewatch. I don't know what it is about this movie. It just is so nostalgic for me, like this time watching this and fucking Night at the Museum, fucking The Mummy. They're all the same type of movie to me. I don't know. I think it's because of like the Warner warm tones and that it was all made in like the early 2000s. They're all the same movie to me and I love all of them equally. I really do. I don't know what it is, even though when I was watching it, I was like kind of goofing because I was like watching Nicolas Cage act normal is appalling to me. It kind of freaked me out a little bit, but you know, he can only act a little bit normal. You know what I mean? He's still Nicolas Cage. It was just a fun time. Nothing more to say about that. It was just so nostalgic and I had a fun time watching it. I needed a palate cleanser at that point in my life and this definitely was that. So 10 out of 10 for the good vibes and the warm tones and for the historical context. Even though it was not very historically accurate, I don't care about that. All right, another honorable mention is Final Destination 3 from 2006. This one is the best Final Destination movie in my head. And it has been that ever since I watched it for the first time, I don't even know, like 10 years ago? Yeah, like about 10 years ago. These movies changed me as a person. They really have. And this is also like the same thing with the National Treasure thing. They were all kind of made, with the exception of maybe the fifth one, but they were all made in like the early 2000s. This is like in that perfect nugget of time that I love to watch. The 2006 Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Yes, I love everything that she's in. But this one is the best one because you get the summer vibes. You got Mary Elizabeth Winstead. The kills in this one, the death scenes in this one are the best in my opinion. Argue with the wall if you disagree. This was another one of those movies where it was like a palate cleanser. I wanted a fun summertime movie. Final Destination 3 is like one of the first movies I think about when I think of summertime. Like the roller coaster amusement park, you know, carnival-esque like parts of it. I love those. I love carnivals, summertime, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Like you cannot create a more perfect movie for me. Interesting deaths. I am someone who needs to have interesting deaths in a movie. I just don't want it to be stabbing, stabby, or bam, bam, bam. I need something interesting. Make it unrealistic, please. Especially for these movies, because if I think about these being realistic, it stresses me out. Okay, and my last honorable mention is Paranormal Activity from 2007. This is also, you know, like I said, early 2000s, kind of like scratching that itch. This was also kind of a classic, cult classic, whatever you want to call it. This was a movie that was always on my mind when I created my channel and I started doing movie reactions. I was like, okay, eventually I'm gonna have to do Paranormal Activity. There's so many Paranormal Activity movies. People are asking me, it's found footage, and I really liked Blair Witch Project. So people are like, okay, this just seems like the next reasonable step is to watch Paranormal Activity. And I was putting it off for so long. Eventually I was like, okay, we gotta scratch the itch. We gotta just press play. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did because sometimes, and I even thought this with Blair Witch Project, but sometimes found footage movies can be kind of boring. There's a little bit of like lulls or scenes of just people talking a lot. And that happens a lot in this movie, but this movie does jump scares so well because you truly don't know when it's gonna happen. You can't anticipate it, and this one actually did freak me the frick out because it also has to do with like home stuff. Like I know sometimes people don't think like home invasions, home whatever type of movies like Strangers or whatever, they don't think that's scary. I personally do because why wouldn't I think it's scary? Being home alone and hearing a spooky noise, that's scary. What's even more scary too is the idea of your partner being possessed secretly and you're like, okay, so like do I break up with them or like try to solve this? And then they try to solve it and the guy was like, no, there's too much negative energy here. I'm like, okay, so what the fuck are we supposed to do? Stressful situations, I guess I will say, no matter what they are, scare me immensely. So maybe that's why I thought this was so scary. It's going in the top for like found footage. I need to watch more good found footage. I watched the first VHS and I did not like it, but that's a story for another day. All right, everybody, are we ready to hear what my #1 best movie that I watched this year was? If maybe you can guess if you're returning on the channel. If you want to take a guess, I'll give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Fellowship of the Ring, 2001. Yes. Are we surprised? No. So I started my journey with Lord of the Rings by actually reading The Hobbit last year. And then I read The Fellowship of the Ring this year before I watched the movie, you know, from 2001, the classic. It was kind of, you know, not a drag to get through the book, but it took a lot out of me to get through the book. I listened to the audiobook of it. Listen, it's a very long audiobook. It's like 14 hours or something. I think it's even, might be longer than that. I think it's like 23 hours or something. And the movie is also like 3 hours long. So I was like, okay, we're really starting this journey. There's no going back now. I, again, was not expecting to cry so much to this movie. I didn't think reading the book would do anything with watching the movie. You know, book and movies are always going to be different. The main difference I saw was that there's no songs in the movie, but there's a shit ton in the book. Like every chapter, there's like at least 2 songs. I didn't really think it was going to affect me as much as it did. Even thinking about it right now, like I'm gonna cry. If a movie can make me feel that much, it's a 10 out of 10. It's gotta be one of my favorite movies of all time. That movie made me feel so much. I was truly heartbroken watching that movie, like genuine, real tears. I'm not even kidding. If you watch that reaction, I was almost bawling my eyes out at one point. Like I really had to turn around, get myself together. I'm trying not to think about it right now too, because it just really fucking made me sad. Don't worry, I am planning on continuing that journey. I just gotta read 2 Towers before I jump into the next movie. It was beautifully crafted, and also, I mean, even though it's like a fantasy type of movie, still in the nugget of early 2000s, which is my favorite period of movies to watch. Oh my gosh, it did everything right. It was like, sometimes you get worried. I mean, maybe not with like these big movie adaptations like Harry Potter movie. Once it was adapted from the books, it's amazing, right? Like the Harry Potter movies are spectacular. I haven't seen them in a long ass time, so maybe I'll start that eventually. Sometimes book to movie adaptations, they're not good, but this was such like a big deal because these books are such a big deal. They're a freaking classic and they did not fail. I don't think anyone doesn't like the Lord of the Rings movies, at least this first one. If I find someone that doesn't like this first one, it's a red flag to me, honestly. It really is. I just don't understand how you could not like this movie. No notes, 10 out of 10. They did nothing wrong. Everything was exactly how I wanted it to look and feel and be, and it was just, it was a great introduction to the start of this long ass, crazy ass, spooky ass journey, and he changed everything, little Frodo. Okay, woo! Okay, enough about that. Woo! All right, so those are my top 5 with some honorable mentions, movies that I watched for the channel this year of 2024. Let me know what your favorite movies that you watched this year were. Let me know what movies you're excited to see in the future, or if you're excited for me to continue any of these journeys. Like I said, I want to continue Lord of the Rings, the Dark Knight series, and the Rocky series. They all made my top 5. Crazy how many sequels made my top 5. Yeah, that's kind of crazy actually. But yeah, let me know what journey you're excited to continue. Let me know what your favorite movies were. I want to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons, to each and every single one of you. Thank you guys for supporting me. It truly means so much to me. Thank you guys for coming along with me on this journey, not even just this video, but in 2024 in general. I'm excited for 2025. Lots of fun things going on in the new year. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see you guys next year. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all of that jazz. And as always, thanks for watching and Happy New Year!